You ready?
Ready.
I think unless you have creativity in your engineering design, then you're not going to achieve excellence. It's as simple as that. The problem with creativity is defining it. It's a very difficult and very ephemeral subject to define. My definition of creativity is to synthesize solutions within the boundaries that satisfy the objective with elegance. Elegance is a strange term, but mathematicians express elegance as purity, simplicity, depth, and orderliness. And I think if you get those into an engineering solution, you've got a creative engineering solution. It's interesting in my mind anyway that one of the greatest physicists in the last century, Paul Dirac, actually started as an engineer and applied engineering principles to the way he went about quantum mechanics. Similarly, Robert Feynman, another famous physicist, actually used engineering techniques in using party diagrams to explain his ideas in very complicated maths and physics. And I think it's interesting to me anyway that engineers can adopt the same approach. As I say, elegance is perhaps a strange word to use, but I think it sums up a very creative design. The vision actually, the initial vision was survival. We were spun off from a much larger practice, and I think we had 5 partners and 12 staff. There was a glitch within a couple of days of the starting date, in which the whole thing nearly fell apart. But for the look, we're here. We were unique, I suppose, in that we'd already established the idea of a coordinated engineering practice. So we had civil engineering, structural engineering, and building services. So that was slightly different to most people at the time. We saw that coordination as something which the industry basically needed. There were an awful lot of chaos at times in design jobs in those days. Once we'd survived the first year or two, and the economic situation at the time was pretty desperate, 24% inflation, 18% bank rates, 3-day working week and so on. So once we'd survived that, then I think we were happier to look at the future. Bearing in mind we started from a very small office in a remote area of the UK, we had perhaps a big-headed ambition of becoming one of the industry leaders. We always had that idea that we should be able to compare ourselves with the recognised leaders in the consulting industry. I think it was generally encouragement from all of the partners. I think all of the partners were aware that in order to progress in the practice, we needed to encourage the staff to express themselves to the maximum. So it was a question of recognising ability, rewarding endeavour, giving responsibility at a fairly early age to many engineers, which other practices might not have been quite so keen on doing. And recognising when somebody had made a special effort, actually making sure that people knew that they'd made that effort. You get so far and you look back and you think, wow, look at how far we've got. Then you look at the future and think, gosh, what have we got to do in the future? If you don't look up then and you stay still, then you fall off. I mean, that's the basic problem with rock face climbing. So unless the practice is going to continue to invest in education and in research and development and awareness of the problems, the social problems that it can solve, then I think it will stultify. So it's essential that direction is maintained. I mean, in reality, the majority of materials that we use in structural engineering have been used over many, many years now, and there's comparatively little movement in that. 1 or 2 plastics and 1 or 2 fiberglasses and so on. But basically, the basic materials are those that we've been using for decades. The methods of analysis and the methods of control have improved enormously, so we can do a lot more with them than we were, and probably much more elegant and refined solutions. But the same materials are there. Having said that, there is now an interest in renewable materials, the obvious one being timber. And Actually, as it happens, the practice had an expertise in timber and when it was formed through a previous practice. And I think it's very interesting that we're going back to using timber as a principal material. I think there's also, of course, the interest in minimising the amount of energy that we consume in structures, and looking at designs which can be deconstructed and reused. So it's reuse and deconstruction. But they're the basic changes in structural engineering. The real changes have occurred in building services engineering. If you don't enjoy your work, if you don't enjoy your job, go and get another one, quite frankly. What we used to find, and I'm sure it's still the same, is that when people joined, they were either Cundall material or they weren't. And they would leave fairly quickly if they weren't. So we established that core of long-term employment with the practice. I think as far as the overall is concerned, I think the ownership retained within the practice is essential. I've watched so many practices that with great potential, they sell out to shareholders, and eventually the direction of their practice is governed by shareholders, not by those who are in it. So once you lose that internal ownership, I think you're in great danger of losing the direction of the practice. And it is the direction of the practice which has made it successful today.